So today we thought that one thing that we could do is maybe pick up a website of somebody that we have on and off consulted with for around 2 years, um, and just help them figure out what they could do better with their website, what maybe where the storytelling is working well and where it isn't working well.
Part of
So
the
it
fun I think about these is looking at them fresh. So even though we both know Cranberry, we haven't looked, or at least I haven't looked at their website in quite a while. And so I think it is kind of fun to kind of be able to approach it with that beginner's mindset is something that we talk a lot about at Naropa.
Yeah.
Notions from Buddhism.
Yeah. I like if anybody is interested, we did interview one of the founders of Cranberry, Aditi, a few seasons ago. It was in our fourth season. But yeah, this is like us looking at the website from probably storytelling perspective, what is getting communicated, what isn't getting communicated, and how we probably would change things.
Interesting. So you would look at it as saying, obviously, that the goal is to tell some sort of story. I'm just
Hmm.
thinking about the question you asked me when we were looking at the Smickle deck, where I
Yeah.
was saying something around, right? Like the goal was obviously for it to be an acquisition. You're like, are you sure? Like, how do we know what the goal was when we were just standing here and looking at it?
Well, at least here we know because we've had conversations with them.
I mean, we'd had Dina on the podcast too. So we,
No, no. I'm saying like we've had conversations with Cranberry about their story and what they are trying to tell. Like in our consulting work with them, we have talked about these things.
fair, fair. The question we might not know if we were just looking at this brand afresh is this a consumer facing brand? And well, I'm trying to wonder. I mean, we obviously know the answer to it. It is a consumer facing brand. We know that because we've done work with Cranberry. I'm wondering if you would know that straight off the bat just by looking at it.
You would.
I think so, right? Like, I think the first part, not necessarily, but I think the fact that they're talking about it being doctor backed and that the products are
Even
vetted by
personalized
gynecologists.
supplements, therapeutic devices, and gynae support.
Yeah.
The moment you add personalized anything, chances of it being a B2C brand is much higher,
Because
right?
it could be targeting doctors or healthcare professionals. But yeah, I think that word personalized, you're right, it does put it into that more of the consumer context than a
Hmm.
um
I also think that like communication for a brand that is more doctor focused would not have start assessment as to CTAs on the above the fold in website. Start
yeah.
assessment makes it feel like, oh, it is about me, right? I would also say that having humans in the first image generally links to a B2C brand rather than a B2B brand.
I
B2B
don't know
brand,
about that. No?
B2B brand, at least like from the designs that I have seen, B2B brands tend to be much more.
Graphic, like some sort of zooming off chart.
Yeah, yeah, basically one of those things. Like, imagine a SaaS company. They will not have people in their above the fold image. They would have image of graphs, things moving up. There is the data, and here are some shiny geometric illustrations to give you an idea of how your business will grow, right?
I hear you on that, but I think healthcare and medical is a little bit more, right? Like I think other like people who do medical devices would be more personal focused. I'm trying to think if I could think of any medical device manufacturers off the top of my head that we could look at.
I mean,
I can't.
3M does medical device manufacturing.
Yeah, but they're not like their whole business is around that.
I don't know many, but I'm just speaking from the perspective of like, so Cranberry is a like fem health tech brand, and I would think that like in most tech brands, the narrative for a B2B product is less humanized. It is more like data and efficiency and productivity, which I think is not wrong.
Yeah, I think the reason I brought it up though is because I think it could feel further in that direction, right? Like it could feel further human because this is such a personal place. You know, it's like the way mental health has this real gentleness a lot of the times in the way it sells to you, or I don't know, like a lot of the men's health kind of stuff that I get targeted with, like it does this whole thing to make you feel like you're not alone initially. Like there's this big focus on like being like 70% of men over the age of 40 suffer with like libido issues from time to time, or, unexpected hair loss is like not rare after 25 or something, right? So they'll start off with these kind of messages to make sure that you feel like you're part of a community, and then try and hit you with this thing that like, oh, us in this community, we share these needs. So I don't know.
But
I
like,
guess
how do you
go ahead.
feel about like the fact that PMS free periods are finally a choice? Like that is speaking to women.
But it's like an acronym. I don't know. It's not as soft. No.
Not if you're a woman, PMS is not an acronym, it's a monster. Right? Like, so it might not evoke as much emotionality for you as like male pattern baldness might. But like for women, PMS does evoke a lot of emotions.
So the reason why I was giving you that example about male pattern baldness and whatnot was because I felt like the way they were doing it is this way of saying that you are seen, right? Like you are seen because you're not alone. And that giving that statistic is a little heavy-handed way of doing it, but I feel like it gives you that feeling. And so I just would pose it as a question to you then, like, do you feel like this contextualization helps you feel seen?
It helps me think of something that I didn't think that was an option is an option. Right? So like it's a little bit like there is a solution to men like male pattern baldness. You don't have to live with it. It's that phrasing. And then there is also this other thing where like there isn't shame or stigma around it, around PMS as a personal failure, but it is more of a like the entire gender just goes through it and we are forced to hide it.
Hear you on that. I just really find myself wondering, like, is that enough? Or is it much more around like you need to show that there is this community and that you as the viewer, you want to be part of that community or you feel like you are part of that community and this is a shared trait by that community, right?
Right, you're
Like,
feeling like right now the framing is very personal and it's not one of togetherness.
yeah.
Hmm.
And I feel
So
like a
would
lot the
something, yeah,
go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
I was just saying like would something like 50% of women suffer with severe PMS symptoms, but PMS free periods are a choice or something like that. Would that make it easier?
Maybe that messaging without being so heavy-handed, because I do think that the audience is different than the male pattern baldness messaging, right? So I think that there is more of a willingness to kind of take that heavy-handedness there. Like maybe here it would be around like using your visuals and using maybe more visuals to kind of show that this is maybe the effect of it, right? Like what does it mean to be having a period where you have PMS versus where a period where you don't have PMS? Or maybe showing the way that like women are hiding the fact that they're having a PMS period, and in a way that then someone can look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's me too. And then I don't know, because you will I know I'm opening a lot of holes here, or opening a lot of boxes here by saying that there would be a transformation happening all within one kind of scene, and I agree that that would be hard, but I'm just wondering if there's a way to kind of give something where someone can look at that and be like, oh yeah, this is me, or I belong with this people. And I wonder if it's
But
partially the
like those are
visuals and
two
partially
different
the
things,
audio.
right?
I mean, of course.
Transformation story and community are two different stories.
So I would keep transformation story, I think, secondary. I think first is how do you get someone to look at this and be like, yeah, these people see me.
Hmm.
I wonder if it's by choosing a little bit tighter what PMS free means, right? Like, isn't that really broad today?
Because PMS is really broad. It could be mood swings, it could be migraine, it could be like these guys themselves have migraines, cramps, and mood swings, like solutions. But like there are many other things. People suffer bloating, breast tenderness, like exhaustion, fatigue, cravings. Like there are so many symptoms. Because like so the thing is PMS free is a state in most women's minds. Like, oh, I don't feel like the world is ending every month. But like PMS is like not the same for everyone. Like if there are 10 women in a room, they will have like 10 different kinds of PMS symptoms.
Do you feel like there's something that maybe is enhanced in that period for some women, or is that not a thing? Like everything in that period is negative.
You can try to find a silver lining or anything, but your hormonal system is actually going on the decline. Yeah.
So what your goal is to be more at your baseline, not necessarily to remove the negative elements from this experience, but still have the experience. Like the goal is just to be what you consider normal. It's not to be like, oh, I don't know, like maybe I have an enhanced libido, which I like, but I don't want to have, breast tenderness. So like I would like
Well,
to
there
keep.
might be people who might have enhanced libido or whatever, but here's the thing. At least for me and the women that I've talked to, most period products, like, you get these ads of sanitary napkins or tampons on TV. And like they're also tone deaf. Nobody is that happy wearing a white pant on their periods. Like, just nobody is that happy. What are you doing? What are you saying? Right? So, something like that is how I'm going to put it. Like, uh, you could do it, but I think like acknowledging the gravity of it, and that's so like I really love their new branding. It feels like a good balance between a medical product, a data backed product, and a product which is in the care space without trying to explicitly be this is a woman's brand. Like the colors, the shape language, everything, it communicates that feeling of, oh, this is a product that is going to be more analytical and not just woo woo. It's not a wellness brand, right? Like they're positioning themselves away from like a wellness brand and towards a nutraceutical brand. But despite that, they are still able to maintain that feeling of care. At least, like, that was my read of the situation, like, of the branding.
Yeah, I wasn't so much thinking about the branding itself. I guess I would agree. It feels like they're real. I was just more thinking about like how you're connecting with your audience. And I wonder if there's a way to be connecting with the audience more in a way that, like I was saying, right? Like is driving the sense of like they can look at it and see like, oh yeah, this is me. Like I wonder if like what if your visuals were more around like showing the things that are not accessible when you are having a PMS period and showing these women
But
being
then
able to
that
do
also
it.
depends. I think, like, I would oppose that because that also depends on what is the audience coming from. So, most women assume that PMS is just a part of life. I've been having my periods for 23 years. Mood swings were just a part of life until I started taking their kit a few months back. It was just like, yeah, every month I'm just going to feel once that world is ending and everybody hates me and I hate everyone.
That's true. I remember that. There would be about 1 day, 2 days where it'd be like, oh wow, Divya is going to be very critical these few days.
Yeah, yeah, right. And so, like, you make peace with it because if something is happening for 2 decades, you do feel like, oh, this is just how life is. You stop thinking of it as a problem and you start thinking of it as a circumstance. Like, I hear you that they could possibly give more of a human touch in this space because there is a lot of care that they have put. But right now, it feels a little more on the clinical side than it would otherwise. Like, how
Yeah.
would you change it?
Beat of the question.
Yeah. I would probably, for example, give a little more context around the start assessment.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Like, I think that the weightiness of it and yeah, really the weightiness of it just feels too much. Like you're already kind of giving me not in this very gentle way start. I mean, it's okay gentle, right? But it's not super gentle, right? Like it's a lot of like kind of like I have to be cognitively with you in order to kind of process what's happening. And then it's like, oh, am I ready to start an assessment? Like that is going to be multiple questions. It's going to be steps. It's going to be information I may or may not have accessible right now. Like, do I even remember my last period, right? Like, what is true of all of my periods of the last 6 months or something, right? Like, you
Yeah,
send you
yeah,
into that whole, like, oh, I should do that when I'm ready.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I
I would
think you
feel
haven't
like,
sorry, I think you haven't built the kind of desire yet. So if I just contrasted a little bit with my sister's company, like who they also have kind of an assessment, if you will, as an onboarding, because what they want to do is they want to take people, understand their sizing and their fitting, and be able to rent them clothes. So you have to fully understand the person's shape and like what kind of fits they like in order to be able to show them clothes immediately that they can look at. And what they do there is they do this big focus on connecting with her and building this kind of aspirational desire, which I think is a little bit what I was thinking about when I was looking at this, now that I'm saying this all out loud. But they'll be like, oh, these women save all this time because they don't have to do dry cleaning and their clothing just arrives and then they just send it back. And these women get to express their inner selves because they're able to try out things in a way that they weren't able to do when they actually had to buy them. And these women are able to access these aspirational brands for them. And here's all the names of those brands. And then you're getting, those are the three kind of pieces of content that you get hit with on that like first page. And then you're being asked to go and do this assessment. So you're building on the fact that you've created desire and then giving them the heavy thing. And here I'm just worried that you're not creating enough desire. I don't know. It's because I don't, PMS free doesn't build that strong desire in me, but maybe it would.
It wouldn't
But then do you
in
have the
women
trust to
also.
believe it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like I see what you interestingly, I'm like coming around to what you are saying. The moment I start thinking about would I take the assessment after coming on the website? Probably not, right? Like I still need more. And sure, there is the like, things that thing that says doctor backed, 100% transparent care, no claims, only facts, right? Like there is some words here that do make me feel like, oh, you are thinking about me. But at the same time, like over here, not yet, right? Like, why
No, I would
should
do
I
a
take the.
carousel, I
Yeah,
think, up here. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I would also think that, like, they need, even whether it is text or it is like gentle sort of lead up to the assessment. But, like, I would say that, like, people need bigger picture of like what PMS free looks like. And then
That's
while it might
interesting.
sound tacky, but like doing a, rather than start assessment, let's start building your path to a PMS free period or something along those lines, feels less. Assessment is evaluative in nature, and like while this is just like very fine copy things, but like generally for CTAs, copy is super important because it communicates the tone exactly. And I feel like assessment is more about how good or bad am I. That's the word association with assessment. Or even if it is how good or bad the situation is. It's not a desire track. It's not a let me go in this kind of track. It is a more I am being evaluated track.
Yeah, yeah. And I think especially in the India context, it has, and in the US too, right? But it has that connection with, am I good enough? Is my
Yeah.
problem real enough? Am I enough? Does this
Hmm.
actually work for me? Yeah,
Yeah.
when you said PMS free periods is kind of like a top level idea and it could have sub ideas, I was thinking about what I was saying a second ago, right? That I wonder if you could carousel like that top thing. So keeping PMS free period is like almost outside of that, like above that, take each one of those four items and you still do like only one sentence. You keep it light, easy, but like maybe personalized supplements has one sentence with it and an image. And then, there's a moving carousel. And then we see therapeutic devices, something, image, gynecology, right? And it's just establishing a little bit more trust in the brand and in what's
Hmm.
being said because it's giving you that depth. I think unfortunately we don't live in this arena anymore where doctor backed like we don't have that same trust in the medical profession that there once was. And so I don't know if it gives enough trust. I'm so sorry to say it, right? Like I think I wish it was different, but I just don't think it doesn't give enough trust. Like it builds some for sure, but you still need to build trust in other ways that people can look at and say, yeah, this does make sense, or these are people like me, or
And I
something like
also
that.
feel like there are a lot of concepts introduced very quickly. So it is a very cognitively heavy and charged, like landing in a way, right? So, like supplements and devices and doctor appointment and coaching, like all of that is like it's a lot. And giving it some more white space, pacing it a bit more land the will land the message easier, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. And I wonder about, like you're saying about that language, especially because I know that their target demographic is not quite like mass market, but the kind of like burgeoning, it's like people who maybe their parents were in a tier two or tier three city, but they've moved to a tier one city, even if maybe their job is initially in like a call center or as an admin job.
Hmm.
Like that's kind of the market that they're looking at. And so I wonder a little bit if you'd want to have more words like personal medicine and like, I don't know, like physical devices. Not to like to take away the
Hmm.
value of those other words, but just stuff that's not like someone has to pause and think a little bit and be like, oh yeah, like what does that mean in this context? But something that they would see more regularly in their regular lives and language. Because English would be a
Because,
second language for almost all of these people. It's not their first language.
and also the problem is that, like, it's not that people will not understand, it's that they will stop reading. Like, that's the problem. They will stop reading. So, like, they will not get your message clearly. They'll be like, PMS something. It's like, oh, apparently doctors talk here also. Maybe you can get an appointment or something like that. But, like, you can't really glimpse exactly what you would get, which could be easier. It might also be interesting to have a photo of like a kit or something to give people a clear idea of what they would be getting at the end.
Especially because they're so cute,
Yes.
right? Like their therapeutic devices are so cute.
Yeah.
I think you
Yeah.
could bank on desirability of that, if nothing else.
Yeah. 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 That
And
is
even like
very true.
showing a text thread, right, of just showing someone talking to someone and having someone to talk to about it, I feel, right, like if it's just like one, where it generates like those, like as though someone's talking and it shows the dot 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 and then the words appear, right? Like I feel like having a little like gif of something of that would just be right. It would give that desirability. It'd be like, yeah, like when my stomach is like cramping and I am really miserable and I don't want to talk to my husband or talk to some, my mother-in-law about it, like here is someone at least I can chat with about it.
Hmm. That is true. Okay, so we should definitely tell them to take better photos of their stuff.
I
I
mean,
definitely agree that it needs to be cuter.
you can read that the bottom text easily, right? It's just me, it's kind of hard because it's small.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
sold as part of Cranberry Kit is what it says, right? Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like the breathing device should definitely be in one of the first things. Like the breathing device should be here.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this is how they are presenting their product.
This
How
is so
would
interesting.
how would you do it?
What do you feel like is the selling point in this type of presentation?
I am not sure actually. I would not present it like this. I would, so like just flowing off of the desirability point, I would try to make it much more like desirable, because right now it's like these are the products that we have, but it doesn't feel like this is the solution to this kind of a problem. And so this is how it will fit in my life, I guess.
Yeah, I would have to know why I would want these already, right? Like it's to me, it feels like the name is the primary selling point, and then the image is a clarity on the name, and then there's further clarity about the terms of this particular product. But none of this is about what I would use it for, which is just funny because of where, like, what we just came from was like, oh, PMS for periods, and then we've come here, and it's like, oh, these are the product. I feel like there was an assumption made about knowledge.
Hmm.
Maybe it's because you're supposed to click the little book icon. What happens when you click the little book? Is that going to take you to?
No, they're still building it, I'm assuming.
Oh, okay, fine. So maybe the idea would be that you would click on that little icon and that would show you, or you'd hover over it and that would show you the science behind it. I would still flip it though. I would put the science into the like put a short version of the science in the carousel and then do the hover over as the like this is what does it?
Yeah, I would actually not do it as a slider either. I would actually do it. So if they wanted this, I would say that, like, have like a list of items here, and they can be like organized in however way, or like a list of symptoms that are here. And then if you hover over it, the photo changes and you are able to, like, see what is there for it. So, like,
I
okay.
feel like yeah, I would, right? It would be like maybe something parallax, maybe a hover, right? But something that's a little bit more fun because I feel like this is a moment where you would add an element of play, but you'd want to add the element of play without it feeling heavy. And I think today the carousel is adding a little bit of an element of play, but it's doing it in this way that is a really strongly cognitive experience. You're like, shit, do I need a cooling relief cap?
Yeah. I feel like I feel like their physical product, because I received it, their physical product has arrived at a lot of play.
Just
And I
click
feel
over
like the
twice so our
website,
people can see it. Yeah,
not
this
just
one.
this guy, like this guy is very cute, but not just this guy. So like the box that it comes in, like the labels on the box, the like, cards that come with the box, what is said, all of that. Like it is a lot of, there's a lot of fun and play, all of that. But it's, the website is very cognitively heavy right now.
Interesting. So you feel there's a disconnect in the physical branding versus the digital branding?
Or maybe like they haven't updated the digital branding
I mean,
strategy as
sometimes it's
much.
also, you feel like you need to present in a certain way. Right. And that's why I almost wondered a little bit if the people who are coming to the website, or at least the thought about the people coming to the website, are more people who are looking for, validity that these guys really are doing shit. So maybe it's more like for an investor audience or for like a grant based audience, and it's less for an actual consumer audience. I
But
don't know.
there are,
Just
you can order on the website. Like there is a ordering facility on the website. Every time I purchased from the website. So like actual consumers are coming on the website and they are purchasing from the website.
so if you click on one of these, you could go to a purchase. Like if you click on that. So right. So then that's an interesting point, right? Like if you're saying that there's a repeat customer flow that is being supported but really relatively easily and maybe at the expense of new customer acquisition, that can be a reason for your homepage, right? Like, I don't know, it's an interesting choice. But if you know that your homepage is not really there for new customer acquisition and your new customer acquisition is really happening in person or through events or something else, maybe it's not a crazy idea that you're going to gear your homepage around supporting your repeat customer flow, and you're going to have lesser as a minor kind of goal be like, I'm trying to support my new customer acquisition.
I don't disagree with you, but I don't think that they are at that stage where it's only the return customers and not new customer acquisition. And I can also like say with some confidence that like they actually do want people to not keep returning. Like they want people to actually feel relief and then be done with it. Right. So like if you look at most of these things, it's like, okay, the medicine is for 3 months, but then this is for lifetime and this is for lifetime and this is for lifetime. Like all the devices are for lifetime. So eventually you'll probably just be buying the chocolates if you are like, returning again and again, which is very tasty. But like that's what I'm trying to say. Like ideally they are not really trying to get you to buy these devices multiple times. Like if you bought the tens device once, you're not getting it again.
So that takes you into a whole interesting place, which is that there's likely a product which is your acquisition product, and in some industries you even look at those as loss leaders for certain types of things. I don't think that would make sense here, but they may think about pricing, say, the chocolate or something almost to that point because that's your acquisition products. And then there's kind of a different paths that you're sending your users on. I'm reminded here of, I think you told me about, isn't it Headspace that like has a really nice offboarding experience where they're like,
It
we're
used
really
to.
glad.
Used to, yeah. I don't know how
Just
it is now, but yeah, it
share it,
used
just
to. Yeah, like when I think, but this was like many years ago, 2018, 19, something like that. So they must have changed it by now. But like at that time when I offboarded and they asked me why are you sort of like, closing your subscription, I was like, the one of the options was like meditation is a part of my practice now. I don't need support for it. And I chose that one because that was true. And they were like, "Oh, we are so happy." So it almost felt like a graduation of boarding rather than "Oh no, please don't leave us, please don't unsubscribe." Like they were
yeah.
actually like, "Oh, we are so happy for you. We are here if you ever need us again, but we hope that like your meditation journey goes well." it was just like really lovely to just get that experience from a tech product, honestly.
And that might be an interesting way to think about the customer for this kind of product is that you're trying to get people to this state where you feel like they have, I don't know, they're PMS free, let's call it that, right? And if not, if they're not in that state, well, you have different paths you're trying to send them down. And maybe some of them are coaching, maybe sometimes it's just like a triggered email set, right? Somebody engages with, I'm having breast tenderness, or we have some way of kind of isolating that this is a PMS symptom they have. And now we have a set of, maybe 6 or 10 different actions. Some of them are trying to encourage them to buy a device. Some of them could be a certain set of emails or a certain set of coaching. Some of them could be connecting them with different people, but we have a different path that we're sending them down when we understand where they are. And if they're not able, if we can't get them to a freedom from that symptom, by the end of that path, maybe there's a way they can go back to an earlier stage and we kind of keep them at that point. But it's almost like thinking about them as I'm thinking about it almost as like a sales funnel with stages, except instead of the final stage being like you made a sale, the final stage is that this customer is at a point that they're like PMS free, right? So it's like depending on what stage they are at, what kind of problem they're having, we're sending them on a different path.
Which is, I suppose, what the assessment is supposed to do.
Yeah. Is there anything else on the bottom of the page just before we
Yeah,
move
yeah,
on?
yeah, yeah.
No, there's a lot more. Okay, so we've gone from showing us the products to now we're talking about what is PMS, and we have some more credibility being added by big words, acronyms.
I feel like this section should have been much earlier.
Yeah,
This section should have been before you show, like I saw the products.
yeah, and I imagine the reason that you would maybe see data that would tell you to keep it higher would be because of your repeat customers who are trying to make repeat purchases. But for your new customers, I 100% agree. I wouldn't have scrolled down this far, right? Like I wouldn't have scrolled down to see
I mean,
this. I would
I
have clicked,
didn't.
yeah, I would have already clicked start assessment.
Yeah. Okay, so this is one of the products. And here you have start assessment again, which feels like fair place. Like I feel like now if I have seen all of these things, I would have an idea of do I want to click on start assessment or not.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't love this. It's just because the context is there's so much fake, this doesn't feel as compelling as a visual. But yes, I agree with you about like what that actual content is. That I think that if that visual was a little bit stronger and made me feel a little more confidence in what it was, that would make me feel ready to start assessment.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
and then
think that
what? We have
like
a
that is
customer testimony. Oh,
actually
sorry, go
a
ahead.
good point that you're raising. Oftentimes a lot of products are not doing what they say they are trying to do.
Yeah,
And like these guys are, like it is effective. Their like intervention does help. So then like they're not creating enough emotional trust.
it really reminds me of this very good friend I have in Boston who he's from a science background and he's been working on this solution for soil nutrition and assessing carbon in soil and came out of MIT I think 4 years ago and has really been perfecting the technology and we were looking at a slide deck together last year and I was just like dude like I know you've done more than this. Why is there not more in your slides? And we were talking about how it's just so interesting that he comes from this place of being like, oh, if I'm not 100% confident in this, I would never put it up there. And I was like, I know, but the problem is the world that you're up against, right? The context that all of your viewers have is not that. The context your viewers have is that people make claims that are big all the time. And so when you're making only really solid claims, the problem is they're being slotted in with all the competitive companies who are making kind of superfluous claims, right? So then spurious claims, excuse me. And so then you're getting discounted in the way that we've learned to discount things because of the world that we're living in. And so when I look at this, especially something like that it says doctor placeholder. I mean, that's a really small thing, but it just doesn't feel real. It feels like, oh, yeah, maybe this thing kind of works, but it doesn't really work. And I've just seen so many shitty bots at this point, like I think I was trying to change my Air India ticket and it was just like, it made me seem like the bot was going to do something. And in the end, it just dropped me. And I was just like, you just wasted my time. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I agree. Like there are a lot of people who are saying random things and like they are saying that, oh, this will improve things like this or like that. Yeah.
So I think
Being
showing it as a real chat would just be so compelling, you know? Like just take a screen recording and like literally do it as a real chat and put the gif of the screen recording, and it would just feel really compelling. And like and a link to be like chat with Barry now. Just these things that can get the person that feel like lower stakes. Okay, so
yeah,
now we have a testimonial. And
but then this is also a testimonial.
testimonials?
No, this is an FAQ.
This is an FAQ. Whoa. Why is there so much content on this homepage?
This I feel like is fine.
Well, is this a single page site? Like this feels like
No, it's not.
an about, not necessarily just people. And what is PMS? So care products, that is the place the care products are. It's kind of a single page site. That link
I
is just
think
broken.
right now a little bit of, yeah, things are moving around a bit, is how
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it.
So what, yeah,
Yeah.
let's see the assessment.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Get your kit in 3 steps. So there are the steps: assessment, kit recommendation, delivery, and then gynecologist check in.
Okay.
My name, age, gender, and phone number.
Do you think they'll kill us if we put some test data in? You could just call
And
it
there
test,
is,
maybe? Because I don't think we can see the next screen unless you. Well, I don't know if you want to put your
I
information on the
already.
internet right now.
So it might be more interesting to think about, like, what is the questionnaire supposed to, because the thought that came to my mind was it might be better to have a step between the assessment and me coming on the website, which familiarizes me with Cranberry, either gives me a moment of connection, a moment of understanding, or something that I could do that doesn't require me to order a whole kit,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Because,
the
like,
equivalent of like a teaser
yeah,
product, something to try out the service.
yeah. Yeah, because like I feel like it would be a lot. Yeah, it's like when you are selling merch, you want some stickers.
Yeah.
Because, like, a sticker is something that is like the person is going to take with them and then they're going to remember.
It's yeah, I remember hearing this about high-end like luxury brands years ago, that the reason why they always have all the like wallets and belts, near the front and whatnot, is because people get pulled in by something else, but then they actually want to buy something affordable and small. And so then they end up buying a belt, you know?
And I think that's also why a lot of them have perfumes.
Yeah.
Like, smells are nice, but like perfumes make a very nice, expensive present without them being necessarily personalized, right? You're like, it's Chanel. It's for a woman. Everybody is going to feel flattered that I got them a Chanel, right? Like it's just get one from the women's aisle kind of a thing. Though there aren't aisles in a Chanel store, but you get it.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about how that like era of scratch and sniff in magazines where the perfumes would be in the little foldouts,
Hmm.
right? That
Yeah.
made it really real to the person. That now the perfume is here in my life. I can see how I would feel with it. And so I wonder if that's what we're trying to say, right? Is there's a way, yes, like we've already talked about, helping the person feel seen, helping them realize that this is a solution for them because they can picture themselves in it, but then also giving them a really tangible way to feel like, oh, this is what it would feel like to have this thing.
Mhm. Because right now you are right when you gave the example of your friend from, like, the friend who's making the soil solution.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like I could trust you, but it's a brand that says everybody should trust us, not why I should trust you.
I'm reminded of that conversation I had with Lena really early on, right? And when she was talking about how depression medicines in the US, particularly the way they're done, is they just cycle through them because they feel like the harm to the person of taking the wrong medication is not that high. But they can look and see, oh, did this work? And if it didn't work, they'll try a different medication. And I wonder if this is a situation like that, where they're erring too much on the side of being careful, where it's like, what is the harm? The harm is that someone spent 2,000 rupees and it didn't work for them. Well, I bet people try out a lot of shit for PMS, like, and a lot of it doesn't work.
They probably don't. The problem is that they probably don't. Like I said,
Really? People
people
don't try
just live it. People just
like
live with
hot
it.
water baths or something or something. At least some, my mama told me to rub this herb on my stomach or
Yeah, but like
something.
it's not effective, right? In most cases.
But I'm just saying that people like that willingness. I feel like this is a market where there's that willingness to try. And I wonder if it's okay to bias on the side of being like, hey, 40% probability this will help you, 30% probability this will help you, right? Like you give it with some caveats so that it doesn't feel like you're not setting it up like I'm giving a formal medical recommendation, but you're saying, hey,
But they are giving formal medical recommendation, right? So like when they do this assessment, they would actually, yeah, they would actually create a
no, I know,
prescription.
I know. I'm wondering if there's a softer way to start.
Hmm. Because I
That
feel like the onboarding flow is it's a bit steep.
Yeah. Like, here's a crazy idea, and I'd really think about it if this was right. But maybe there's a world where there's a quiz that's like, is chocolate, is a period chocolate right for you? And it's a really short 3-question quiz. And then it's like, want a full assessment of your period and what could work for you? 200 rupees, click here. And it's like, even it's actually a paid assessment, right? But then there's just a different mental context for the person where they're like, yeah, this is a paid service for me. But so then it's a much more of an alignment of, it's not the first step. You're not expecting someone to jump in and be like, yes, I'm going to spend this money initially with this brand I don't know. There's a much cheaper, lower cost mentally and physically first step. And then there's a second step that is the weightiness. Like, sometimes you want people to pay for almost the like investment versus the actual money.
Yeah. I feel like it's also so interesting how many different things we just went into, even though we were just looking at the website. So like, what is your onboarding flow? What is your story? But also what is the product pricing? Is there a like, right kind of slope there? I also feel like oftentimes when we make websites, we don't think about it so much.
Really? Maybe in the first iteration, but I feel like as you iterate on them, like those are the questions that you keep trying to answer. Like, does this support my customer onboarding? Does this support my product flow? Am I seeing the upselling that I'm looking for? Do I need to have a different landing page for different kinds of customers? Like, those are the things that make you build depth into your website as time goes on.
Maybe more in weird culture companies, westernized, educated, industrial, rich, developed.
I have never heard that before.
It is so common. This is why most psychology research was breaking around 10 years ago. Because all the research was done in weird cultures. So it's like, oh, these are students of Stanford. This is their mental pattern. And it's like, bro, students of Stanford are not average population.
Fascinating. Yeah, I guess. I mean, but how else would you do it, right? Like, if you don't want to like keep like you want to approach it in an iterative way, I would imagine, and
Yeah,
like
you would, but I'm just thinking from the perspective of like if your brand is not acquiring their customers by people coming on the website purely. It is very much recommendation oriented. It is very much like, done in other ways. Then like data would be less clear. It wouldn't just be very crisp, like, oh, people are dropping off here. So we can do something different here. Like it's not as disconnected of a society, right?
I hear you. I still feel like you would understand what is the things that are driving drop off, and maybe it's like I'm not building enough trust with my user. And then it's like, well, okay, what are the different ways I can build trust? Some is it maybe making it easier for my existing customers to talk about us by simplifying the message. And then some of it is maybe, yeah, like, as I look at the website, like how is the collection of form and structure and content together delivering against trust? And maybe one of the ways we need to do that is by adding more depth, by like, I don't know, giving more places that people can dive deeper. So like, I don't know, right? Like I hear what you're
Hmm.
saying, but I think I would still feel like it comes down to what are the feelings I'm trying to create at different points for different kinds of customers, and then how am I being successful in doing that?
See, but that is too generic. That is like you learn by trial and error. Yeah, sure. But like it is in the specifics where you get better at it, right?
Yeah, I hear you on that. I don't know. I guess I don't mean to belabor the point. It feels to me like maybe you wouldn't find depth, but there would be some way that I think, there's a difference between a website that you build initially and then just the way you understand what you're trying to
No, no,
communicate
it's also because you're
later
not
on.
never just building the website, right? That's why I brought up the weird culture point. Because generally capital is abundant in the westernized world, but it's not in the developing nations. So the constraints of you have to focus where your energy is going become much sharper. Like, so you make decisions in those points, right? They might not be best decisions in the long run, but you do
You're saying
optimize
there's
for,
higher tolerance for good enough.
yeah, there's much higher tolerance for good enough, both on the consumer side and on the, so like, in Japan, customers also expect perfect and businesses deliver perfect. In India, customers expect jugaad and businesses deliver jugaad, right? Business is like, yeah, sir, just wait for like 10 minutes, even though it was your reservation. We gave the table to somebody else. Can you just wait? And then you're also like, okay, yeah, yeah, I'll wait for 10 minutes. Wouldn't happen in Europe. They will be like, no, no, we cannot let anybody sit on this table 45 minutes before also, because God forbid the person who has made the reservation, if they have to wait for half a second.
New York, they'll just tell you how long you have the table for.
Yeah, but that is also like a very specific kind of prioritization, right? A very specific
Yeah.
kind of behavior.
Interesting. No, it's an interesting point. I mean, and then that kind of takes me back to what we were saying earlier, right? Which is that, if this is supporting some of their key use cases, which is like maybe when people who are familiar with the brand want to make a purchase, that flow has little drop off because of how easy it is to complete. Like, maybe that makes sense for where we are right now.
So much more fun if we actually had one of them on call. Next time when we do this, we should definitely have one of the persons from call.
I don't know, man, because it's so hard for them not to end up defending, Like,
But at the
any
same
of us
time,
would
like,
end up defending.
yeah, but we are also hypothesizing only, right?
But I think there's a certain freshness to it that is possible when you don't kind of feel like you need to caveat it to like protect the person, right?
Maybe we
Like if
can
I
share
felt like
it.
someone was getting more defensive, I would try to get them to a place where we could have more of a conversation and less them being like in a defensive point. But
I
then
agree.
I'm managing for that, which is a separate thing than like actually just looking at what is being effective here.
No, I just feel like, sometimes we run too far into how we are thinking about it and like correcting and defending our own points. And I just think that like an open conversation with the person who made the artifact leads to more rich like
I feel like
discussion.
it was when I said it could be a paid assessment. It's what set you down this
Yeah.
path.
No,
No?
no.
Okay.
Before we began, also, it set me down this path. But we'll see next time.
Yeah. Yeah.